know we must learn to stand together, learn to live together, learn it's not forever. I know, let's see if we can let the people know.
All right. I'm going to take it that we're on.
We're on.
My monitor's down. I don't see nothing.
Oh. It's coming back.
It's coming back now. There we are. Look how fucking good looking we are.
Oh, yeah.
Kidding me? You don't want to miss this shit. That's why we're not on radio, bitches. We got the screen going on. It's the American dream. We're living the dream, just like Kanye. Going to Washington. Every boy's dream. To sit and talk about dragon power with your best friend.
Dragon power.
Getting that dragon energy on. I'm surprised. Is that a drink now? I mean, somebody should have jumped on that.
Yeah.
And made dragon energy drinks. If not, then I guess I'll have to go out and trademark that shit. Welcome to the middle. I am your host, Ronnie Wright. With me, as always, the Kanye West to my Donald Trump. God, wouldn't that be interesting? We could talk about hydrogen airplanes all day long. It's Justin.
What is up, people?
On the other side of the glass, making sure my monitor stays up so I can look at that bushy, shaggy face of mine. It's Ryan. What's going on, man?
Not much. How you guys doing?
I'm doing good now.
Trying to figure out where to get my dragon energy at.
You know, if you can't get it off of Twitter and Instagram, you're fucked because there's no place else to get it, apparently. I seen the ad for it, though. It's him with his face smushed into Donald Trump's chest. Have you seen that picture?
No.
Yeah, it's all over the internet. It's.
No, I haven't seen it.
I think they do it as a men's cologne, Dragon Energy men's cologne, and it's Kanye sniffing Donald Trump's tit. It's really awesome. But much like Melania Trump, we don't care, do we? No, nobody cares. So we had a big hurricane down here this couple days ago, Hurricane Michael, hitting into the panhandle of Florida. And it was pretty wild, man. Did you see any of those before and after pictures?
Yeah, there's some serious devastation.
I mean, it's like before there was a town. After, there's nothing.
Leveled.
Right. There's
scary
dirt.
shit. Really disconcerting now that I've just moved down here and I'm like, oh boy. It's all right.
Thing is,
I'm in for it.
The hurricane like sped up last moment.
Yes, it sped up. It was that's what made it scary. Like it popped up out of nowhere. And normally, you know, these come off the like out in the Canary Islands and shit like that off the coast of Africa. And you got like a couple of weeks.
It was really, that was a weird place.
So it popped up off the Yucatan and just literally went from being a cluster of clouds and rain to being a tropical storm to being a hurricane within like 36 hours. Like boom, boom, boom. And then it was like Sunday night or something. They were like, or Monday morning, they were like, hey, get ready for landfall on Wednesday. I'm like, wow, that's fucking quick, man. You know, good thing. And once they showed like the spaghetti strings going up towards the panhandle, I said, all right, well, there's not enough time for it to change direction.
Right.
So I'm good. So I didn't like run out and get water or anything or, you know, stock up on ammo.
I did go get water, but I had to get it anyway. I just needed a case.
Yeah, at some point, you know, you're just like, yeah, I just need to get water.
I'm not going there because anything is happening.
Right.
I was going to go anyway.
Mm-hmm. You know, like if I was a really good-hearted and sympathetic person, I would have loaded up like a pickup truck with water and went up to the panhandle and start. Yeah, but I'm not that guy. You know who is supposed to be that guy? FEMA.
Yeah.
Do you know how many people are on the ground right now from FEMA?
You know how it works now? My dad has a friend who, he works in the car business with him. Regular, does well, sales, whatever. But when stuff like this happens, he just takes a bunch of time off and goes up and makes a ton of money doing roofs. Like he got a license that he just sits on most of the time.
Right.
And then when there's damage like this, he goes to those areas, gets together a bunch of workers. They use his license. They fix roofs. They make a couple grand a roof, and that's that.
Sure, why not? I used to do it with, with weed. Whenever the local weed dealer would get pinched, I would be like, oh, opportunity. And I'd go out there and sell weed and make money while he was,
Supply the demand.
So some of the people on the ground in Panama City. This was last night was filed. I believe this is the Times. Damn, I didn't mark it, but I believe it is. Anyway, 2 days since Hurricane Michael, Eddie Foster was pushing his mother in a wheelchair down a thoroughly smashed street, his face creased with a concentrated dose of the frustration and fear that has afflicted much of the Florida Panhandle since the brutal storm turned its coast to rubble. He's 60. His mother is 99. They got no car, no electricity. The food's spoiled in the fridge. The storm's ripped off large sections of his roof. He's got no working plumbing to flush with, no water to drink. And as of this Friday afternoon, he has seen no sign of government help. So, not that they're not responding. I know it's always, it takes a little time to get in there and get done. But the optics of this smacking into the coast and the first couple of days going by with people having no electricity, no water, no food, and Trump having Kanye West come visit him in the Oval Office and then doing a couple of rallies, a rally in Pittsburgh and stuff like that while this is all going on. I don't know. I mean, not that he had to do anything that would have made it better, but for optics, I mean, it almost would have been better if he just would have, went golfing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hung around and not done any high-profile stuff.
It is a little weird that a portion of the country was completely devastated, and he's just not involved.
There's 18 dead. I mean, the death count is at 18.
Yeah, almost all the presidents in my lifetime have made a big thing about that.
He's made a bigger deal about Taylor Swift telling people to register to vote than he has out of 18 Americans getting killed.
Register.
Right. How dare any celebrity have the balls to say something about politics? Their opinions don't count unless they run for president and then get Russian help to steal the White House for them. Then celebrity is awesome. I love it.
This just in.
Huh?
FEMA.
Yeah.
Brought to you by Dragon Energy.
Yeah.
Coming to a panhandle near you.
That's it. The Middle, Politics and Profanity, brought to you by Dragon Energy. Proud sponsors of FEMA. Ay, ay, ay. So that happened. People are in a fuckload of trouble. Whole towns are wiped out up there. I've been through a shitload of hurricanes since I've been down here almost 20 years now. And I was here for the really bad ones, the ones in 2004, the back-to-back, Gene and Francis. And, it's always a tough deal after getting hit by a hurricane, but it always makes you feel nice. I remember in between the hurricanes, even though I didn't like W, he came down here and was in Fort Pierce handing out water.
Yeah.
Just
chilling.
Yeah, he was coming down to make sure everything was good.
Your job as a public figure is to be out in the public being a figure.
There's almost no. This is
it's in the name.
This is when you're a power hitter, right? When you're in baseball and you're a real power hitter, and somebody, you come up to the plate in a situation where there's men on and they walk you.
Right.
You don't have to do anything. I mean, you just have to stand there and kind of waggle the bat and just kind of take your position, wait for that pitch to come in. They're walking you. And you just go ahead and toss the thing and you take it in, with grace, and you walk on to first base, and that's it. You don't have to do anything to look good in that situation. You look really good.
Yeah.
You're so good, they don't want to pitch to you. That's kind of what it's like when the president has to deal with a natural disaster. There's nothing he has to do. He just has to walk up to the plate, waggle the bat a little bit, and just trot on over to first base and make it look good. There's nothing he has to do. But even Trump can fuck it up. Even Trump finds a way to fuck up the most simple play that you could possibly have as an elected official, which is be sympathetic. Just a look on your face, just a word or two. Instead of tweeting hate, you can almost tell. Not you can almost tell. You can tell. When he has something that a president would say come out in a tweet, it's not him. It's a staffer that wrote a little thing and then tweeted it out on his account, thanking everybody on Veterans Day or something like that. It's not him, because his thing would always be I love veterans. I'm the greatest advocate for veterans. You know, he makes it all about himself.
Right.
Every time he does something like that. So when it's like, we recognize the great sacrifice and service of all of America's great, you know it's not him. You know it's some fucking guy on staff that wrote that thing. So, you know, just let the guys on staff write some shit and send and put some tweets out there that make it look like, you know, have them misspell a couple of words, have them capitalize something for no reason, put a couple of slammers on the end and a couple exclamation points and be done with it.
Yeah.
Nope, can't do it. Got to sit and talk Dragon Energy with Kanye. So that was Hurricane Michael. We hope those people are going to be okay and everybody gets right. You know, I know it's always shitty, but you'll get back in the fight. So speaking of fights, there's a border wall fight going on again. And this is the strangest thing because, you know, this guy made his election when he was campaigning about, we're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. This was his whole pitch. We're going to build a wall, a great big beautiful wall, and Mexico's going to pay for it. Now it's, I'm going to build a wall and I will shut down the government if American congressmen don't vote to fund it.
Oh.
It's like, well, that's different than what you said before. I mean, you know, it's not going to be a cheap thing. I mean, they're talking this could be, you know, literally $100 million to build $100 billion to build a fucking wall. Because, you know, it's a lot of real estate that's going over. So
we have things that fly, though.
Well, this is the thing. It's like we've
sure.
got all this technology, we've got all this personnel there and everything else. And the best thing it's like, why not just, you know, why don't we make the new slogan, build a moat? Build a moat and Mexico's going to pay for it.
There can't be anyone who knows how to swim.
Right. You know what I mean? There can't be anybody that has a ladder that can go over a wall. I mean, even El Chapo, didn't they learn? El Chapo had fucking tunnels to get out of jail. You know, people dig under, people go over, and, you know, God help us all. It is a wall you can break through. You know, people did it in Berlin for decades. For decades. And that's people who really knew about building walls.
It was also in the middle of a metropolitan area.
Right.
So you would think that it got eyes on it all the time. So even in a situation where it's surrounded by people, constantly guarded in a metropolitan area, you can still get over.
Still get over, under, or
and
through
then
it.
if it's in a situation where you're in the middle of a desert where no one sees the wall at all, you just assume that they can't get over it then? Like,
it's in the middle of a desert where if you happen to see people walking around, it's like, that's strange. It's a fucking desert.
Yeah.
Hey, you probably don't belong here. Come on over here. Can I see your ID? Oh, you don't have any? Get in the truck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that should not be an issue. But it's an issue.
You guys know what
Because you made it an issue.
Trump's favorite pop song is?
What's his favorite pop song?
Border Wall.
Border Wall. Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe you're going to be the one that saves me. My
Yeah.
border wall.
Ah, I gotcha. A little Oasis. I know Trump is an Oasis fan because, you know how I know that? He's gay. Sorry, I love my gays. You don't have to be gay to like Oasis. You just have to have shitty taste in music. But so the border wall fight's going on. He's going to shut down the thing if he doesn't get $23 billion. He's going to shut down the government if he doesn't get $23 billion included in the budget towards building a portion, just a small portion of the wall. $23 billion. You can literally give every kid in America a college education for $23 billion. It's a lot of fucking money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the type of money, too, where the wall you're building should be fucking next level shit.
Right.
Like, this thing should be laser gridded, like
it should be fucking invisible.
Yeah.
It should be invisible. We should have like Dragon Energy ads and holograms on it.
I don't know,
right?
Like the plans alone. Jesus, this thing must be the next level of technology.
You would think for $23 billion, he's like, oh, well, it's going to be see-through. It's like, that's not see-through, dude. What that is there's a wall on top and there's a fence on the bottom. A wall is solid. A fence has little chain links in it. So, I mean, it's not really what's the sense in that? I saw that thing and I'm just like, well, that's ridiculous. It's either it's a wall or it's a fence.
Like, I feel like if you took the $23 billion and just gave it to Mexico, they wouldn't want to come here anymore.
Right. Like, give everybody $1,000 American. Like, here's $1,000. Try again next year.
Like, what? Just give the money away.
Right. That would make even better sense.
You could literally bribe the amount of people trying to get over here with that amount.
Not only that, but they would spend it in the Mexican economy. The Mexican economy would do better. Then they would have more jobs and more people that would want to stay there and get jobs in their home country. Look, these people, they're not thrilled that they have to leave their families and the country that they grew up in and the people around them with the language that they understand, the culture that they understand, to come here to get shit on for $7 an hour.
I saw a recent piece on this regarding home workers and the bad conditions and the rise of the temp agency and how they're all positioned in lower income neighborhoods taking advantage of people in the temp agency world. People are working for like 10, 15 years for one company and only making $8 an hour.
Yep.
Like, this is what they're coming over for now. It's really not a good situation for anybody involved.
For anybody.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about, we had, what's her face? Ivanka opening her mouth. Why she even opens her mouth. She put something on about stopping human trafficking and you know, modern slavery. It's like, bitch, you had sweatshops in China making your shit for sale. These people were making, I think it was $60 a month.
Right.
A month to make her handbags and shit. I mean, is she fucking serious right now? I mean, of course, it's not really shocking. She's just a miniature, you know, slightly better looking version of her dad. But I think he's got bigger tits. But still, I mean, give me a break, man. So these guys are making a border wall fight. And the funny thing is that the entire time that he's been president, they've had nothing to stop him from putting budget money to build a wall. They literally run the entire government, the Republican Party.
Yeah.
So there's literally nothing stopping them from funding a wall. Except, you know, like most Republicans are at least, you know, educated and not, I went to Wharton Business School and showed up and they gave me a piece of paper educated, but actually educated where they realize, you know what, it's probably not a great selling point to people that the Mexican wall that Mexico is supposed to pay for is going to actually be coming out of their tax money.
It's like going into a Ferrari dealership with a ton of money and coming out with a Civic that costs a ton of money.
Right, and the whole time the guy telling you, like, it's going to be free.
It's going to be the same cost, dude.
It's totally going to be, yeah, right, exactly. And you, right, so my
Not only
thing
that,
with
but you don't need the Civic or the Ferrari. Like, you don't even need to be here, man.
Right. That's his line these days, is that, you know, it's the Democrats obstructing it. It's like, Democrats ain't obstructing shit. You guys can just vote around us.
Yeah.
There's nothing stopping you from funding $150 billion to build your great big beautiful wall. But you're not doing it. There must be a reason, right? So here's my thing, because I've been in politics for a while. This is what I would do, and this is what I encourage all Democrats in Congress to do. Present the Make Mexico Pay For It Act of 2018. This is what you do to your political enemies.
Right.
So now I'm going to get you on the record, motherfucker.
Oh,
now vote for
tricky.
the Make Mexico Pay For It Act, like you promised, or explain why you're not. Explain why you're not voting for the wall that you promised that Mexico would pay for. Let's pass a law that says the wall is going to get built and we're going to make Mexico pay for it. Let's make that a law. Let's make it all in favor.
That'd be such a crazy law.
That'd be fucking excellent. And the Democrats should bring it to the floor.
Yeah.
And they should say, you know, there should be no problem passing this. The guy's been talking about building a wall and make Mexico pay for it.
Turn it around
for the last 2.5 years. Let's have a vote, fuckers. Let's vote.
Yeah.
I mean,
See, I was under the impression that he thought by increasing tariffs against Mexico that he was going to make them pay for it that way.
right. That's not what he said. I mean, that's what the excuse he started coming up with once he got elected was then, oh, well, Mexico will pay for it because I'm going to increase tariffs. It's like, yeah, that's not how tariffs work.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought he was talking about when he first said that.
No.
And I was like, but
No, he never
can't do that.
See, when you don't understand a shit fucking thing about government and how government works and operates, you can say, I used to run across it all the time. When I ran for office and stuff, I would run across guys saying, you know, they would talk about they're going to do this and they're going to do that. It's like, dude, the job you're running for doesn't even have anything to do with that.
Yeah.
You have no ability to change that. What are you even talking about? But if you say it to stupid people, they're going to nod their heads and be like, yeah, he's right. Yeah, no, he's not. He's completely wrong. He has no idea what he's talking about because he doesn't understand how government works. Yes, great. He owns a pizza shop. Oh, and he's running for office. Oh, good for him. What a great story. Yeah, but he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. So please, don't elect him. So that's what this guy is. Yeah, he knows a lot about how to keep a nice little cliffhanging plot at the end of the season for a reality TV show, but he doesn't know anything about the Constitution or how he doesn't know American history. I mean, the other day he was at a rally in Ohio, and he talked about what a great general Robert E. Lee was. Yeah, you know who beat him? Ulysses S. Grant. You know where he's from? Ohio. You're sitting there talking about the guy who Grant from Ohio beat to win the Civil War for the North. You're in the North on a campaign rally, and you're talking about Robert E. Lee in U.S. Grant's home state. That's how little he knows about anything. Anything. And you know what he said? Just like Frederick Douglass. We're hearing more and more about General Grant these days.
Okay.
Yeah, he's just back from Iraq, Mr. President. General Grant is awesome. You know who's buried in Grant's tomb? Hopefully Trump.
Yeah.
Hopefully Trump one day. A fucking moron. But yeah, when he was out campaigning, his whole thing was, we're going to build this great big beautiful wall and we're going to make Mexico pay for it. How is that? He never answered, because whenever you asked him, he had no answers because he doesn't understand how that would even work. Doesn't even understand how that works. If you really want to go ahead and do something like that, like he thinks tariffs work, tariffs don't work that way. But if you want to take, like, if we're giving financial aid, human rights money to Mexico, any kind of money that we're giving to Mexico on the social side of things, rip it out. I mean, these guys don't care. They're going to gut Medicare and Social Security. What would they care about what happens in Mexico? They could take that money and reroute it if they wanted to. But he's not smart enough to know that. And the people that tell it to him he says, no, the tariffs will work. It's like, Mr. President, the tariffs don't work that way. All you're doing is making American people pay more for things that they pay less for now. How hard is that to understand? He's a fucking moron. So that's the border wall fight. I look forward to seeing the Democrats bring forward that Make Mexico Pay for It Act. What's that? You
also have to have products that Mexico makes that people want to buy over here for the tariffs to have any...
The stupidest thing is that there's products that American-based companies have made in Mexico that then they bring into America and assemble here so they can say that it's made in America, even though the parts and everything are made in Mexico. You start hitting those with tariffs, all you're doing is shitting on your own companies. And look, Ford is going to lay off tens of thousands of people. Why? Because he wants to make other countries wants to make it more fair. This is what a little baby says. He wants to make it more fair by putting tariffs on steel.
Right. So this whole thing with the tariffs and the trade, I feel like people just suddenly didn't realize, like, we're in this situation because we wanted to be. Every single business owner in America chose to make this how we do business.
Yes.
It's not like the Chinese forced us into this situation.
No.
Like, we forced it on them. And now we're complaining about the relationship we have with them.
Look.
Which makes zero sense. Like, this is how we wanted it.
When I was running for office, I was endorsed by a bunch of people. Last time I ran, I swept the board. It was shocking that I didn't destroy my shitty opponent. But I was endorsed by AFL-CIO and all the affiliated unions, United Auto Workers Union, Steel Workers, Iron Workers, all those guys were endorsing me. But here's the reality. Reality is that to live in America with the cost of living having gone up and the wages not changed, literally flatlined for the last 20 years.
They went down.
Right,
since
exactly.
the 70s.
And inflation, fucks all that up and always outpaces whatever the wages have risen. Building things in other countries for cheap is sometimes the only way to get it done. Sometimes it's a really good thing. Like, if we stopped importing things from China, we'd be done as a country. not just as consumers.
It's not just China, too. Like, people don't.
Absolutely.
This is a Southeast Asia thing.
Right.
Like, this is a much
Vietnam
bigger. And, like,
is
for us
big
to
with
focus
clothing
on
now.
China is very much theater.
Well, they
like,
are.
That
They
is
are
a
our largest.
ridiculous fucking thing.
They are our largest trading partner. So
Yeah,
that's,
no, I get. I don't deny at all the impact, the massive impact of China. I'm saying though that this is a problem that's not because of a specific country necessarily, but a system that we have set up that
Agreed.
we made. Like, this is how are you gonna?
Agreed. This is the way that businesses and corporations want to do global business, and then they got this guy in thinking that somehow a guy who ran a business, kinda. The guy who ran a business,
shit.
right, would come into office and he would do really well for them. Well, I mean, he did really well for them as far as getting tax cuts. I mean, the first thing that these guys do is, what can we steal from the poor and middle class, and how much does it divvy up to all the 1%?
Right.
So that's the first thing he did out of the blocks. I mean, the first thing he tried to do was healthcare.
Yeah.
Because that was another thing. It was like, well, what can we give back to corporations right now? Well, let's make them not have to pay for healthcare plans anymore. So let's rip healthcare away from the 40 million people who have signed up for healthcare since Obamacare started. And he did strip it from 23 out of the 40 some odd million. So it was a pretty good job. But John McCain gave the thumbs down on that vote, and he killed that one thing. Well, the next thing they did was a no-brainer, which was, let's have a tax giveaway to all the rich people. And, you know, where's that come from? It always comes from the poor people. That's the way it's always been since, you know, back when there was kings and queens, back when there was the Roman Republic. You know, that's just the way it always goes. The rich get rich off of the backs of the poor, and then the rich tell the poor how lazy they fucking are.
Right.
And if you just worked harder, you could be like me.
It's like a very abusive employer-employee relationship.
If you just worked a little harder, you would be a millionaire like I am.
And then you ask them, well, what if you paid them more? That wouldn't do anything.
Wouldn't do a thing.
Oh, really?
You got to give me more, and then I will build the jobs that they can have for $8 an hour. How dare you question my authority? Fucking ridiculous. So that was going on. So here's another thing that he doesn't know anything about. The Washington Post reporter, Jamal Khashoggi, who is a Saudi national, he's got a working on citizenship here in America, permanent resident status in the United States. He has become very successful and outspoken as a reporter and an editorial columnist against the Saudi regime, who are pretty brutal. And in case you missed, the Saudis did bomb, in Yemen last month, and struck a school bus with a U.S.-made rocket and killed and wounded every single kid on board. Because that's what we do now. We give them the big boy toys to play with, and then we sit back and watch what they do with it, and that's what they do with it. So this guy, Jamal Khashoggi, spoke out against that stuff. And he was in Turkey, and he had to go to the Saudi consulate because he needed to get paperwork for his upcoming wedding. He wanted to marry the woman that he's been with for a while. They've been engaged, and he wanted to seal the deal. And when he went into the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, he never came out again. And so Turkish Secret Service guys, Turkish CIA or whatever you want to call them, they basically reported to the world that, these guys killed him. They were waiting for him. They brought in specialists from Saudi Arabia to the consulate prior to him coming to the consulate for paperwork. And then when he went inside, they basically questioned him for a little bit, tortured him, and then killed him, and then hacked his body into pieces, put it into a truck that went straight to Saudi private planes at the airport and flew it out of the country. Of course, the Saudis say, oh, no, of course that never happened. He left soon after he came in. We don't know what happened to him. Of course, there's video of him entering the embassy,
right,
and no video of him ever leaving the embassy. And Istanbul happens to be a city where there's just there's TV cameras everywhere. CCTV is how they run their city, how they keep they have a big brother over there, not unlike us. So no film to prove that he ever left the place. And so basically what happened was the Saudi prince, who runs the country because his dad's old and can't run the country anymore, basically had a dissident reporter, journalist, taken, tortured, and killed for speaking out against him. Now, I mean, that would be something that normally a U.S. president would automatically condemn because free societies don't kill journalists. However, we have a president who happens to call journalism and the media the enemy of the people. So anybody who thinks that journalism is fake news, that anytime they speak truth and anytime they report something he doesn't like, it's fake news and that they are the enemy of the people, you would not be surprised if that president didn't give a shit that some country that he does business with and that his son-in-law does billions of dollars of business with killed a reporter that spoke out of it. I'm sure Trump wishes he could have reporters tortured and killed. I'm sure. Absolutely. I mean, think about some of the shit that people have written about him. From the small hands, from his mushroom penis to the, all the fucking stuff that's been written about him. You think that little boy, man boy that's president would not give the signal to somebody to kill a reporter? He absolutely would. So they asked him what he was going to do about it, and he said, well, what do you want me to do about it? He's not a citizen. Oh. He's not a U.S. citizen. Oh, okay. He has permanent resident status, so he's getting there.
Yeah.
But, yeah. He is a reporter for the Washington Post. Washington is America.
And
then he said, well, they do $110 billion in arms sales with us. You want me to just cancel $110 billion? Oh, I see. So that's the price. You're putting the price on the person's
Is the
head?
question there, is there no one else to buy that amount of weapons? Because I could find you a buyer.
Yeah.
And probably at a higher price.
Well, he says...
And I don't know anything about the industry.
He said if we do that, then the Saudis will spend that money with Russia or China. And it's like, well, first of all, no, they won't, because we've already sold them all their weapon systems, and Russia and China weapon systems aren't compatible with ours. So they'd just be flushing down the toilet all the stuff that they've already bought, which is F-16s and fucking, and ships from our Navy that were decommissioned and every other fucking thing.
Who cares if they buy it from someone? That's not the point.
Right. But even if it was the point, his point is wrong,
right,
as usual, because he doesn't understand a fucking thing. He doesn't understand anything. So that was his first reaction. And first reactions tell you a lot of things. You ever watch some of these things on like the ID channel, like the murder shows where like they show how they investigate a murder? When a guy sits down, like a woman's murdered, and they sit down with the woman's husband, and they tell him that his wife is dead, they look for his first reaction. Because his first reaction is going to tell them a lot about whether this guy's a suspect or not. So when the first reaction of a president is, well, he's not even a citizen, and we do $110 billion in arms sales with Saudi Arabia, should I just flush that money down the toilet? That tells you a lot.
Right.
So that's our president. That's what he had to say about the murdered journalist, Washington Post journalist, by the Saudis. And, not that the Saudis have ever done anything bad to us, like, I don't know, send over a dozen or so terrorists to fucking fly planes into buildings here. Not that they ever did that or anything. Because no matter which country we invaded, all the guys on 9/11 came from Saudi Arabia.
Right.
Just want to put that out there so people don't forget. I remember, because I remember my yellow alerts. This week also we had Pinedo, the guy who was involved in the Russian hacking scandal. It's the longest sentence in the Robert Mueller investigation. He was sentenced to 6 months. Now, this is the guy that most people don't realize that he was part of it. His end was he would steal identities, social security numbers and stuff off of the internet. And then he would set up bogus like PayPal accounts and online banking accounts using that fraudulent information. Little did he know that the bank accounts he was setting up were for Russian hackers. So back when Robert Mueller indicted all those Russians last year, Russian, like, what do they call their, the RGB, the Russian military intelligence, that's what it's called. Yeah. The Russian military intelligence guys that he actually indicted, They'll never probably, get caught because they're Russian military intelligence guys. But he got indicted along with these guys, this Pinedo guy, and he admitted his wrongdoing. He cooperated, and he gave them information about other guys that he did this for that may lead to further indictments. But the longest sentence so far, 6 months.
FSB.
FSB, that's what I'm looking for. And the GRU is the Russian military intelligence. The FSB is the government one. So that's like the difference between, I guess, their FBI and their CIA.
Right. Their thing is Batman.
Why not? It's like China. They just steal trademarked.
Look at that.
Awesome.
That's definitely Batman.
That's funny, man. So he was ordered to do 6 months, and then he's got to do 2 months.
The Spetsnaz guys, their little emblem.
Yeah.
Is a fucking bat.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, well, I still like KGB. They should bring that back. Let's go retro, Russia.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked a little bit earlier. Kanye West, a little boy's dream come true. He made it to the White House. Halfway through his meeting with President Trump, even the president was looking around him for someone to save him. To save him from this crazy person who's sitting across from him, called himself a motherfucking this and a motherfucking that. It's like, dude, you're in the White House, in the Oval Office, sitting at the fucking, the Resolute desk with the President of the United States, who I think is a shitbag, but still, the President of the United States, with like 50 members of the press around, and you're like, he's talking about America has to have hydrogen planes. He's talking about multiple universes. He's talking about, it was just like a stream of consciousness thing. And Trump at one point literally was looking around for help. Like, what the fuck did I do? Why is this guy here? He thought when he met his wife, when Kardashian came there a couple months ago, that she was pretty normal. I was like, yeah, you haven't met your Dragon Energy brother yet.
But I thought he
strap yourself
got Kanye West out of the insane asylum.
Yeah, it seemed like he was on like a weekend furlough or something from the insane asylum. Well, funny you should bring that up, because in honor of Kanye West's visit to the White House, we are going to bring back the middle, Politics and Profanity's favorite game show, Who Said That? That's right. I spent $1.85 on this theme song. That's including tax, another buck and change on this graphic. So I got like $22 and change left in my weekly budget. So Who Said That? We're going to look at quotes, and we're going to have to guess. You're going to have to guess, Justin, who said that. It's either Saddam Hussein, Charles Manson, or Kanye West. Let's see how crazy the crazy can be.
Ooh, the Kanye and Manson ones are going to be tough.
Here we go. First one is, I am probably one of the most dangerous men in the world if I want to be, but I never wanted to be anything but me. Who said
Manson?
that? Was it Charlie Manson? Yeah, right off the bat, he goes for one. So we got one for Charles Manson. Nice picture. I love it. I love the swastika.
I'm gonna get this one.
Does the swastika ever go out of style? See, good move, man. Don't be attracted to easy paths, because the paths that make your feet bleed are the only way to get ahead in life. Was it Saddam Hussein, Charles Manson, or Kanye West? That's tough.
Hussein.
Saddam Hussein, he says. And that's another one.
All right.
2 for 2. Doing a lot better this time around, man.
I got this.
Yeah, you got this one. He's got his groove on. He thinks he's got this. What do we got?
You were really good at the psychopath quotes.
Yeah.
Well,
Would you believe?
you might want to get out of there, Ronnie.
Would you believe in what you believe in if you were the only one who believed it? Would you believe in what you believe in?
That's Kanye.
If you were the only one who believed it. He says it's Kanye, 3 for 3. He is rolling. Remember that one? Back when he stole the Grammy Award?
That's what I looked like in my head, and I was like, oh, that's because it's a Kanye quote.
All right. I ain't got no magical powers and mystical trips and all that kind of crap. It's kind of silly.
Kanye?
He says Kanye.
No, that's Manson. It's Manson.
It is. Second guess was correct. It is Charles Manson.
For the second
It
guess.
sounded like a song at first, so it threw me.
Yeah. Hey, man, Charlie Manson was a good musician.
He was.
Yeah. Strike them and strike evil, so that evil will be defeated.
Hussein.
He says Hussein. He's on a roll.
Yeah.
Saddam Hussein. I always wonder why they make those. It's like, yeah, you're going to make yourself the head of the military. Get fancy, man. There's a lack of people in power that are motivated by the idea of helping people.
Manson.
He says Manson.
Ooh, Kanye?
That is Kanye.
All right.
It's funny how you're able to flip Kanye and Manson around, right?
Yeah.
Make America. I never thought I was normal. Never tried to be normal.
Kanye.
He says Kanye.
Oh, yep.
It is Manson.
These tricky guys.
Sounds like Kanye.
I knew those two would be the hardest. They walk a fine line.
It's crazy. The most important thing about marriage is that the man must not let the woman feel downtrodden simply because she is a woman and he is a man.
Manson.
He says Manson.
Wow.
Saddam Hussein giving us some marital advice. I didn't even know how many wives he had.
I knew it's not.
But he had a
Kanye.
bunch, so he's probably pretty knowledgeable about marriage.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't Kanye because of the word downtrodden.
Because his shitty vocabulary is what Justin is saying. I feel like I'm too busy writing history to read it.
Yeah, I bet you are. Kanye?
He says Kanye.
Maybe not, though. It could be. Yeah.
Of course, it has to be. Who else could have that kind of ego?
No, the other one.
Well, it could be Manson and it could be
Yeah.
Hussein, but that's so egotistical. I never thought. Nope, we already did that one.
Did we?
Yep. I
not
call on
question.
you. Yeah, that's it. I call on you not to hate, because hate does not leave space for a person to be fair, and it makes you blind and closes all doors of thinking. Is it Kanye?
Manson?
Manson. He says Manson.
There's a lot going on in that sentence. Oh, wow.
Saddam Hussein.
Okay.
Calling on others not to hate. That's not what a brutal dictator does.
Yeah.
Or is it?
It is if you're committing to the con.
I can analyze people's intentions immediately. That's just a warning to everyone.
Manson.
He says Manson. That's Kanye giving us a warning. I think he was talking directly to Taylor Swift.
Oh, okay.
That's just
'cause
a warning.
Her intentions are totally in question.
Your intentions of taking black people's music inappropriate. It's like, dude, she was a country star at the time.
I know, she's like an acoustic guitar player, dude. What are you?
Fucking moron.
She's a fucking teenager, too.
There's totally nothing wrong with a black guy
Messing
jumping
with
on
my-
stage and stealing that
Do
from
not
her
mess
hand.
with my Tay-Tay. She's awesome.
It's fucking crazy, right? And that's how most of the world got introduced to Kanye West, that they didn't know him at that point. And that's, I believe, when Obama said that he was I forget what he said he was. That he was a jerk or something like that. He acted like a jerk. I was like, yeah, man, you got to call it out like you see it. So that was Who Said That. That is the best game show that we can buy for about $2.76. That's including tax, because we pay our taxes.
Worth it.
Totally worth it. It's amazing how closely aligned Saddam Hussein, Charles Manson, and Kanye West are. When they say things and people write it down, it all kinds of runs together.
Before we did that, the similarities between Kanye and Manson are heavy.
It's amazing, right?
But not Kanye's not a bad dude. A lot in some of that stream of consciousness stuff. Like, I like talking about that stuff, like multiple dimensions. Like, that's not the issue. That's not what the issue is here. The issue is there is a circus going on, and it used to be the only time you heard from the White House is when you needed to hear about something important. Now it's like, well, you're going to hear from us about things that aren't important only, and the rest of the stuff that is important is buried. And that's that.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, Kanye, that's fine. You make your music, you go see your buddy Trump. Like, what is there another channel that's giving me?
But here's the thing.
I'm cool, but
if you or I had the opportunity, and I don't care what president it was, If you or I had the opportunity to go to the White House, sit across the Resolute desk from the President of the United States and talk to him, would it be about multiple universes? Would it be about what a musical genius I am?
Right. Yeah. Like, I don't, like, Trump's just not even the type of person I would try to have that conversation with.
Right.
Like, even if you were wasted with him, I don't think he would really understand. This dude comes from old school, like...
But I would make sure that I spoke either to the office of the president of the United States or above Trump, however you want to look at it.
Right.
And I would say, Mr. President, here's the things I care about, and this is what we need to concentrate on as a country, and you can help, and here's what you can do.
Right. It almost feels like this was purposely done to lessen the impact of the presidency.
Distract from a hurricane hitting the panhandle that he doesn't give a shit about because he doesn't own property.
A journalist.
He doesn't own property in the panhandle.
A genocide in Yemen.
I mean, if he owned a golf course in Pensacola, if he owned Trump International Golf Course in Pensacola, Florida, he would have been all over this.
Right.
Because it affected him personally. But things that happen to Americans or things that happen to human beings, being the leader of the free world is a term we used to use. People don't use that anymore at the President of the United States because it just doesn't seem right. It doesn't sit right on this guy's shoulders as a mantle that he can wear because he can't. And so, you know, like we were talking earlier about the easy things, about being a rock in a crisis.
Yeah.
That's a president's easiest thing to do. This guy can't do it because it doesn't have anything to do with him. He can't show empathy or feelings toward any other person. The only way that ever happens is if he's somehow involved. And if he's not involved and he's forced to talk about it, he makes it so that it directs back to himself, no matter what it is. I mean, he talks about the Civil War and stuff. He doesn't know anything about the Civil War. He barely understands that the North beat the South. Other than that, he knows nothing else about the Civil War. But anytime he talks about it, he'll talk about how the Southern generals were great heroes. Why? Because that's what his base wants to hear, because they don't want to see statues taken down. He'll talk about how he's more popular than Abraham Lincoln. Why? Because he doesn't know anything about Abraham Lincoln. He just knows that Abraham Lincoln's a president that everybody knows. And so he wants to make sure that people know him more.
Yeah.
That people think of him as much as they think of Abe Lincoln. I mean, that's the kind of crazy shit that this guy goes through. That's what goes through a person like Kanye's head, Charles Manson's head, Saddam Hussein's head, Donald Trump's head. It's all the same.
Right.
It's all the same egotistical, self-centered, hooray for me, fuck you mentality. And when a person like that is in charge, like Saddam Hussein or Vladimir Putin or Donald Trump, it really doesn't work out well for the rest of us. It doesn't work out well when people are only focused on themselves when they're in a position where they should be focused on all of us, and the last person to eat should be them. But that's in normal times, and we're long from normal times. And speaking about normal times in politics, a GOP official in the state of Kansas resigned last week after he lashed out at a Democratic congressional candidate, Sharice Davids. Sharice Davids is not only a female, she is also a Native American, and she is also a mixed martial arts fighter, as well as being openly gay.
Oh.
So this particular GOP official decided that he would tweet out, "You and your comrades' stealth attack on Yoder," the person she's running against, "is going to blow up in your leftist face. The real Republicans will remember what the scum demon rats tried to do to Kavanaugh in November. Your radical, socialist, kickboxing, lesbian Indian will be sent back packing to the reservation."
Oh, boy.
So it came out. It took very little time for his Twitter account to be locked, like they all do once they get called out for the fucking person that they are. You know, the lady who it was directed at, who was the head of the Democrats in Kansas, said she was shocked that she didn't even know what he was responding to at the time. But she was stunned by it. It doesn't. Davids, who's running for Congress as the Democrat, she would be the first openly gay member of the Kansas congressional delegation if she wins, and it looks like she very well may win. She said it doesn't represent Kansas values. It doesn't represent the values of the Republicans we know, many who support my campaign. And, many of these people who were Republicans, or a lot of them are just they're getting out of their Republican registrations. Not necessarily becoming Democrats, but they're registering independent. They don't want to be associated with being Republicans anymore. You see it a lot of the pundits on television. If you watch CNN or MSNBC, a lot of these guys that are analysts are lifelong Republicans that are no longer Republicans. Guys like George Will. George Will is like the poster boy for conservatism. Can't call himself a Republican anymore.
Yeah.
A lot of these Republican strategists who worked on McCain's campaign, George W. Bush's White House, and so on and so forth, can't call themselves Republicans anymore because of this shit. Because of nonsense like this. It's like if you have that much of a disagreement or a problem with somebody based on their race, their ethnicity, their sexual orientation, just keep it to yourself. And, and argue that, she's a socialist in her policies and it's going to lead to communism, whatever you want to say, whatever nonsense, plays to your base. But you don't got to attack somebody because they're Native American and they're gay. It just makes no sense. And people
a lot of that just seemed like drunk tweeting.
Right, but it's completely sober and they completely sat and thought about it. And they think in the age of Donald Trump that they can be Trump, but only Trump can be Trump. And even he's not going to be around forever. So these guys who think that they're going to ride the coattails, who can't get a meeting with him or have him come out and do some stupid rally in their hometown to help with the campaign, they think, I'll just be Trump light. And I'll just do it on my own and I'll do crazy tweets. Right. And then you have to quit. Then you have to resign your job because you can't. This guy was just a precinct committeeman. I've held that position here in Florida. It's like the first elected position that you can hold in the party. It's a party position. Only Democrats can vote on their committeemen, only Republicans on their committeemen. It's like basically your precinct captain. You get out the vote every election, that kind of a thing. So that was the first post I held. This guy's first post he held, if he thought it was going to parlay into something else, he's probably wrong because that's the way.
What the real difference between them and Trump is about a couple $1 billion.
Right, exactly. A couple $1 billion in Russian mob laundered money. I mean, if they knew how to launder money for the Russian mob like Trump knew how to do it, then they could have as much money as Trump has. If they learned how to undervalue Manhattan real estate the way that Trump and his family have learned to undervalue Manhattan real estate, they'd never have to pay taxes like Trump.
So
but they don't. They just
what
tweet
really
stupid
baffles
things.
me is that the Republicans are pulling out of their party because of this and not because the Republican Party doesn't stand for small government anymore or any of the other values that it's supposed to hold.
And that's to me, looking at it like a superhero kind of a setup, man. My arch nemesis retired and now wears socks and sandals down here in Florida. My arch nemesis does not exist anymore. He's not in that business anymore. All my life, I was not always a Democrat. I was an independent for the first part of my voting life. And then I became a Democrat in 2000. So, a little more than half my voting life now has been as a Democrat. But I've never been a Republican. And there's a reason why, a lot of reasons why. But the reasons why were the things that they stood for as a core value, which was, the right to life thing, which is really just right for people to give birth. It's not right to life. And gun rights. I'm a gun owner, and I've carry concealed. But I don't think that every knucklehead should have access to a gun. So all these core values that they have, it's like, nah, you guys got it wrong. There's some value in what you're trying to say, but you're saying it wrong and you're going about it to the extremes. That always got to me. So I was like, nah, I can't really do that. I'm not a Bible guy. I don't, God's not real. Stop fooling yourselves. You're wasting your life, believing that somebody's counting up how many sins you make. Just worry about your shit. Be as good a person as you can. You don't need 10 commandments to tell you don't kill your neighbor. All that stuff that they bedrocked their party on, I didn't agree with. It didn't make me hate them. I didn't agree with them, and it's like, well, I can never join your club because I don't believe in the things you have in your club's rules. So that was it. But those guys are gone. Those guys are either independents, newly minted Democrats, or they're Republicans that just said, you know what, the guys that are all resigning and retiring. They're like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. Or like McCain, who got the easy way out and got to pass away quietly at home and not watch his republic fucking go down the drain and his party be shredded apart by a bullshit reality star who doesn't even understand how government functions or how tariffs work or how a wall isn't going to keep people from getting into a country that's surrounded by ocean. You fucking moron. But anyway, moving on, let's go ahead and do us some tweets of the week. I already spent so much money on that theme song that I had no money left for an entry little graphic for tweets of the week. But we'll get there. I'm saving up for that, and then I'll use the rest of it for a down payment on a ham sandwich. So here we go from Tom Thunkett's Mind. It's here are a few of the actual records Trump set for his first year in office, and these are legit. Most days vacationing, most games of golf played, least amount of bills signed, lowest approval rating, most provable lies told, most cabinet resignations, and most criminal indictments. I think we've covered all those things separately in this show along the way. Here's one in one nice little meme from
Here's the
Blue
table
Wave.
of contents if you're new to the season.
Unbelievable, right? But it's true.
Next week on American Politics.
Trump will be doing one of these things on this list.
We're in the dark timeline right now.
Yes, this is, if there are alternate universes like Kanye says, God, I hope we can go back to one of the other ones. Let's follow a different timeline. What else we got? Okay, at Tina 410-14747. Against abortion, have a vasectomy. We talked about this too. If you're out there and you're holding signs with pictures of dead fetuses in front of an abortion clinic somewhere, and you have a penis, go get a vasectomy. Put your money where your cock is. And then we won't have to have abortions. Because every single pregnancy is caused by sperm. Only one way to stop it. Have a vasectomy. They're totally reversible. You don't even have to have it forever. You could just have it for now. And then when you decide you want to have kids, they can totally reverse it and you can stop shooting blanks anytime. So take that right to birth, right to birthers. Wait, that's two different things.
It would be super weird if women tried to regulate some aspect of like the balls or something.
Kamala Harris
Like it'd be
to
fucking
Brett Kavanaugh during the hearings. Can you think of any laws where the government legislates control over the male body? And he sat there and he sputtered. But no, not to my. Yeah, because there are none. There are no laws because government is run by rich white men. There are no laws where they would govern their others' bodies, men's bodies. It doesn't happen that way. It's only women. Women get pregnant. No. Women get impregnated.
Like I'm not involved.
Right.
I'm just not involved.
Women get pregnant. It's like, no. Women have unwanted pregnancies because they had, All right, what else we got? Okay, so let me remind Trump supporters of socialist programs. This is LGBT resistance. Socialist programs in the U.S., and I'm not going to go down and read them all off, but look at all those things. See these things up there? When you complain about taxes, these are the things your taxes go for. And a lot of these things would be considered socialism because what socialism is just taking the money from everybody and giving services to everybody off of that money. It's basically called for the collective good. That's what socialism is. It's not communism, and it's not a scary thing. It's all these things you see up here, like Medicare and Medicaid, all the social services, Social Security, If you like bridges and roads and tunnels, if you like, lighting on the street, if you like a police department and a fire department, all these things take everybody's money, put it in a pool, and pay for all these things for the benefit of all of us. That's called socialism. So get over yourselves.
Although, to be fair, have you been to any of the public beaches in Florida lately?
No, because I can smell the stink from a mile away.
Yeah.
So I was wondering.
That's just because we're fucking up our water.
Yep.
So it's no good? Like by Jensen and stuff, you can't really...
Well, yeah, the first time now where it's really the stuff that was infecting the lagoon and the St. Lucie River is now out there on the beaches. It's literally a red tide used to be a different thing altogether, but now the red tide is connected to the freshwater releases that they have from Lake Okeechobee, which is all the fertilizer runoff from the center of the state from all the farms into the Kissimmee River.
That's no good.
So, I mean, it's just human shit. It's animal shit. It's pesticides and fertilizers. And all of it goes down into the rivers. The rivers all drain into Lake Okeechobee. Since Lake Okeechobee doesn't drain into the Everglades anymore, it gets released east and west to Tampa Bay on the west coast and into the St. Lucie River and the Indian River Lagoon on the east coast. And then that water now gets flushed in and out with the tides action at the inlets, and so it escapes now out to the beaches. I ran on this issue a bunch of times. I was endorsed by these guys, bullsugar.org, and a bunch of other environmental groups.
Oh, I've seen their signs around.
I've been out doing this for years. I've been out protesting. I've been out at the locks where they do the releases. I made campaign commercials featuring this stuff. It's crazy. It's never going to change. The ridiculous part is that the fucking guy in charge for 8 years, Rick Scott, is running for Senate against our astronaut, Bill Nelson, who's been a senator for 20 plus years. And he's saying that Bill Nelson hasn't done anything in the decades he's been in the Senate. It's like, well, first of all, he's in the Congress. You can't really get anything done by yourself. You have to get a majority of people on your side. Literally, that's the rules. You've been governor for 8 years. You literally have a supermajority of Republicans in the state house and the state Senate. You could have done anything you wanted. What you decided what to do was to strip all the regulations from environmental stuff, stop the environmental agencies here in Florida from using the term climate change.
Oh, man. That's
Which, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
Category 4 hurricane just hit the Panhandle.
Right.
Not saying climate change didn't stop that at all.
Yeah.
Didn't stop that from happening. Didn't stop the red tide from going on our shores right now. So he's claiming that Bill Nelson's done nothing. It's just like, dude, you've been governor for 8 years. You've literally done the reverse. You've done more harm.
Right.
Then if you just would have done nothing, it would have been even better than this. So fuck Rick Scott. Vote for Bill Nelson. At JI11, when people talk about liberal bias, here's what they really mean. Liberal bias, also known as an informed opinion. So like I said, with Trump, he doesn't know any fucking thing he's talking about. Anything he says is an uninformed opinion. Where did he get these opinions? He said he's had them for decades, right? Which is why he'll never change them, even though they're completely wrong. And he should know better as president of the United States because he has literally cabinet members who can come to him and give him the actual information on all these things that he's wrong about. But he doesn't like to read.
He doesn't like to read. So they literally have to break it down to him in PowerPoint so he can look at it, or they have to tell it to him in an abbreviated version. Oh, great.
But they can't give him any papers to read because he doesn't read them. Yeah, that's our president. What else we got? Okay, what goes around comes around. That's going to be the new logo on the Supreme Court. I think the Supreme Court is also brought to you by Dragon Energy. Thank you, at Ivory64. And here we go. We were talking about this earlier. I really don't care, do you? Not even a little. The First Lady changed the story when she wore that jacket on her way to visit kids in cages in Texas. Yep. And she wore the I really don't care, do you jacket. They said at the time, stop reading into it. The media is going to read into this all they want, but there's nothing to read into. It's just a jacket. And then in an interview 2 days ago, she said she did it to antagonize the media.
Oh, okay.
A, who gives a fuck what she says? She's a fucking gold-digging whore. and she's, a trophy wife, whatever you want to call her, and her opinion counts for literally shit. I value Taylor Swift's opinion politically more than Melania Trump. That is all we have for this week on The Middle, Politics and Profanity. For all of us here at Howard Broadcasting, for Ryan, for Justin, and for myself, we will see you next week. Bye.
I know to you strangers around a suicide.